Welcome to Rick's Corner, brought to you by Old School Labs, the brand I trust and the only one I put my name to. Use my code DRASIN12 on the link below. Welcome to Rick's Corner. I'm down in Venice Beach today at Gold's Gym with Jerry Brainum, the guru of nutrition and science and medical and you name it. You know a little bit about everything.
That's true.
So let's talk about, we talked about on the phone about arginine.
Right.
And super pump and those things that pump your muscles before you work out. And you had a theory behind it. I want to hear about that.
Okay, the truth is most of the studies that have tested arginine supplements or let's say nitric oxide supplements most of them have found that the supplements don't work.
Okay.
And there's a number of reasons for that, and I'll just start right from the beginning. One thing, most of the supplements are based on arginine, and the chemical basis for this is that arginine is the immediate precursor for nitric oxide. Nitric oxide itself is kind of a ephemeral gas. It's made in the various parts of the body, the brain and the blood vessels, and it's kind of manufactured, synthesized from arginine through an enzyme called nitric oxide synthetase, and then it kind of lasts for about 6 seconds and it disappears. Now, it's very hard to measure this stuff, you know, and for years, scientists really didn't know what it was. They referred to it as endothelial relaxation factor. Then in the 90s, a couple of scientists actually identified it as nitric oxide, and they won the Nobel Prize in Medicine, I believe was around 1998 for that discovery. But the point is this is an important point. The way they figure out how a supplement is working in relation to nitric oxide is to measure the byproducts of nitric oxide metabolism, and that would be nitrites and nitrates. Now these things are also found in vegetables and foods. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, to get back to the arginine, these supplements, again, nitric oxide supplements are based on arginine. The first barrier in the body is an enzyme called arginase, which is manufactured in the liver and the intestine. And as soon as it encounters arginine, it breaks it down, it degrades it. That's the job of this stuff. So that's the first barrier.
Okay.
Now, when the nitric oxide supplements first came out, they were based on studies showing that arginine does boost nitric oxide. But the small print is that these studies involved intravenous administration of arginine, averaging about 18 grams. There's a similar situation with growth hormone arginine. All the growth, you might remember, arginine was said to stimulate growth hormone.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that was also based on intravenous administration. If you give a 30-gram intravenous administration of arginine, you'll definitely get a growth hormone release, unless you're completely deficient in growth hormone. Okay. Unless your body's for some reason not making it.
Okay.
So it's the same principle. So anyway, they came out with these nitric oxide supplements based on the fact that a IV administration of arginine at 18 grams stimulates it. Now the problem again with taking oral arginine is first the arginase enzyme in the liver and the intestine breaks it down, so not enough arginine really gets into the blood for it to kind of be converted through the nitric oxide enzyme into nitric oxide. Okay. But here's the interesting part. This is the part that very few people talk about. They have what they call an Arginine Paradox. That's the way it's termed in biochemistry, in the sense that if you give some people oral arginine, they actually do get a big boost in nitric oxide. Now, who are these people? These people are usually people that suffer from cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, and an elevation of a amino acid byproduct called homocysteine, which is made from the essential amino acid methionine. All these people tend to manufacture in their bodies a substance called asymmetric dimethyl arginine, which is kind of a bizarre form of arginine. It's structured like arginine, but the enzyme that converts arginine into nitric oxide can't convert this stuff into nitric oxide. So basically it kind of crowds into the enzyme and prevents the arginine from being converted, see? But when you give, now again, these people are making too much of this bad arginine. But if you give them regular arginine, it actually bypasses the problem, and they wind up using the arginine and it's being converted into nitric oxide. Also, obesity, people that are fat also have too much of this stuff, and people that are older. As you get about maybe 50 years old, your body starts to produce, even if there's nothing wrong with you, your body starts to. Now, those people, if they take arginine, they're going to definitely get a nitric oxide boost.
So you mean if I take it at my age, I'm going to get a pump from it?
You probably will, you know,
Okay.
because most people are producing, already producing higher levels of this asymmetric.
Okay. But the younger guys, for example?
The younger guys, if you're young and healthy, I mean, I just found a new study just came out last week where they gave 6 grams of oral arginine, l-arginine. Now, most of the supplements actually only contain about 4 to 5 grams.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they keep arginine low in supplements is if you give any more than 10 grams of arginine, you get nausea. You wind up like vomiting. You know, most people get very nauseous.
Okay.
So they keep that amount down for that reason. But again, if you give somebody who let's say, if you give a younger person who's healthy, who's not producing this chemical, the arginine basically is not going to do anything.
So basically they're wasting their money buying the
They're
product.
wasting their money, but there are ways around this problem. There's 2 really good ways around it. For somebody, first of all, let me say right off the bat, and scientists have pointed this out in medical papers, you wouldn't want, you know how the ads, they talk about massive increase in nitric oxide, super pumps and all that stuff. Well, you never would want a massive increase in nitric oxide, because what it does is it basically dilates the blood vessels.
Okay.
Now, if you dilate the
Wine will do that.
yeah, but if you dilate the blood vessels too much, the medical term is shock. You basically go into shock.
God.
You wouldn't want to have that. In fact, when you have something called septicemia, which is blood poisoning, one of the problems is you get too much nitric oxide, you go into shock and you die. It's a 50% mortality rate. So in other words, my point is you never want to have a massive. The good news is that none of the supplements are going to produce that.
Okay.
You can only get that if you did like maybe an IV administration, something like that.
And we're not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that. But here's the really good news. There's ways a young guy who doesn't have this chemical problem can actually get a pretty good, significant boost in nitric oxide, sufficient to actually increase the dilation of the blood vessels, and more importantly, get more oxygen into the muscles, which is going to actually turn into increased workout intensity. Now, here's the 2 methods that I'm going to talk about. One of them is another amino acid called citrulline.
Okay.
Citrulline is very often sold with a substance called malate. There's a supplement called citrulate malate. Okay. And it's actually sold to increase endurance. Some people recommend it for bodybuilding, but it turns out that citrulline bypasses what they call the arginine barrier. Yeah. In other words, you take it, and it gets in the blood, in the kidneys convert it back to arginine. So it bypasses the liver, which would normally have the arginine, which would turn it into nothing. But in the kidneys, it's turned into active arginine, and then the arginine does get in the blood. As soon as it encounters that nitric oxide enzyme, it's converted into nitric oxide. So you get a genuine release. Now, if you don't want to take a citrulline supplement, some of the natural foods that are high, watermelon is particularly high in citrulline.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually watermelon and watermelon juice are very high in natural citrulline. Another option, and this is actually probably my favorite, a number of studies have come out showing that beet juice, and certain vegetables, leafy green vegetables, they're high in, and remember I talked about how the way they measure nitric oxide in the body is through the it's metabolic byproducts, which is nitrite and nitrate. Okay. These are the byproducts. It turns out these things, it's like a two-way street. These things can actually be converted back into nitric oxide, and they're found naturally in food. Okay. They're found naturally in leafy greens, but beet juice is particularly high. It contains natural nitrate, which is converted to nitrate, and then immediately is converted into, as in the body, is converted to nitric oxide, completely bypasses all the arginines, all that other enzyme problems. And the studies have shown that if you drink beet juice I think it was about 30 to 40 minutes before a workout, it increases workout intensity by 20%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And in fact, to my knowledge, there's no drug that does that. There's not even a drug.
All right, how much beet juice do you have to have?
Maybe an 8-ounce glass is enough. Okay. 6 to 8 ounces is enough. You want to take it about an hour before the workout. This chemical reaction takes place very fast, but you want to let it get into the body.
You can buy beet juice anywhere at the moment?
Anywhere, yeah. I mean, you probably want to go for, I think they have organic beet juice, just to be sure, and that kind of stuff.
What if you just eat beets?
Beets would do it too, and leafy green vegetables would do it. In other words, there was a problem years ago where nitrates were associated with certain types of cancer, particularly stomach cancer. People that were eating, for example, you still see in the studies of meat, when they do studies of meat in relation to cancer, they often find that meat tends to stimulate colon cancer. But if you read most of these studies, the type of meat that does this is not red meat, but usually processed meat. And the reason in the processed meat is because it contains byproducts and chemicals, including nitrates. And for years they thought that nitrites were bad, or nitrates I should say, because they stimulated this cancer process, because they combine with amino acid byproducts in the gut, and it forms this substance called nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are the actual carcinogens. Now, this is not applicable to bodybuilding, it turns out, because if you take antioxidants like vitamin E and vitamin C, it prevents the nitrates from combining with the amino acid byproducts, so you don't get nitrosamines. So it's completely irrelevant. And not only that, but even for people that aren't into supplements, they found that the extent of carcinogen effects from natural nitrates is much less than the original thought. In other words, you have to have like massive amounts. Nobody really ever eats that from the normal foods.
No, yes.
So the cancer thing is out the door, basically. It's nothing to worry about. But the point is that bodybuilders who want a real nitric oxide stimulation effect, and it is very useful, by the way, can get that from either, again, citrulline, or just by drinking beet juice, eating beets, or eating leafy green vegetables. I mean, you try this, you're gonna notice increase of better oxygen delivery to the muscles, less fatigue, and greater training intensity. You'll be able to actually lift heavier and do more reps. It's amazing how it works.
All right, so the bottom line is, because those are a lot of big words,
yeah,
a lot of people aren't going to understand, because it's in detail. You got to be a scientist to understand it. Is to get citrulline. You get that from watermelon.
Watermelon and like red fruits have it.
Okay, and then also beet juice.
Beet juice and leafy green vegetable.
And you'll get a good pump.
You're going to get it. Those will actually turn into nitric oxide, whereas most of the nitric oxide supplements that cost like $60 a bottle,
right,
aren't going to do nothing unless, there's a lot of young guys that already have high blood pressure, and maybe they have occult heart disease. Those kind of guys are going to actually get a nitric oxide release, because again, their body is not making the nitric oxide because of this asymmetric dimethyl arginine blocking it. And when they take the arginine, that's bypassing it. Yeah. So, I mean, as silly as it sounds, for a young guy, if he takes one of these nitric oxide supplements and he claims he's getting a massive pump, I'd say one or two things are happening. Either A, it's a placebo effect,
right,
meaning he's talking it into himself, which happens a lot with a lot of supplements.
A lot of things, yeah.
In other words, if you believe something's going to work, it's going to work.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it's amazing how potent it is. The second thing is that a lot of these nitric oxide supplements, you check the label, they have a lot of simple sugars in there, carbohydrates.
And that's what's doing it.
Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. The simple carbs that are in these supplements, they actually stimulate insulin. And insulin itself will stimulate nitric oxide. Wow. So the pump they're getting is not from the arginine, it's from the sugar.
It's like you're taking Waxamase, which is a complex carbohydrate, before you train.
Right.
Same principle.
Same principle. In other words, it's the insulin.
And then the sugar is also going to put fat on you.
The sugar could put fat in excess, yeah. So. I mean, it reminds me of something where they came out with a study, carnitine. A lot of bodybuilders take carnitine to lose body fat. But the problem is that if you take a carnitine supplement, you get a large plasma value. In other words, it goes up in the blood, but it doesn't get into the muscle. And it's the muscles where you want carnitine, because in the muscle, that's where you want to have the fat burning effect. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, a couple of scientists found out that if you get a large insulin release, you will actually push about, I think it's 15% more carnitine in the muscle. And so in other words, you can actually get a carnitine effect, but there's two bad points about this which make it useless for bodybuilding. The first thing is that it takes 6 months for this to occur, to get enough carnitine in the muscle. The second thing is to get enough insulin pushed out to get that carnitine. It requires 95 grams of simple sugars for each dose of carnitine. So if you take several doses a day, you're going to get a massive amount of sugar.
Yeah.
You're basically going to get fat as a pig. Yeah. So forget the fat burning effects of carnitine.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. So who would do this? Endurance athletes. It's not for bodybuilding. In other words, if you're like, running marathons.
So basically they're defeating their purpose.
They're defeating the whole purpose. It's useless.
I'll be darned.
I mean, and I actually spoke to people that were thinking of coming out with a supplement form of this. They were going to package carnitine with massive amounts of sugar, but I guess they sat back, scratched their head, and figured, wait a minute, this isn't going to work.
That's completely opposite than what you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly. You're canceling out the whole effect. It's useless.
All right, so this has given you guys a lot to digest in many ways, mentally and also through your stomach. So bottom line is to eat watermelon or red fruits and beets.
Right.
Before you train.
If you can handle them. See, I personally don't like beets.
I don't care. I don't care what you like.
I don't even like leafy green vegetables. I'm a complete hypocrite.
Thanks, Jerry. This is I'm going to go on another subject, but we're going to stick with this one today because it's really a lot to understand, digest, and try it. Go buy beet juice and get the red fruits and try it. I'm going to. I think it's worth a try. I like beets anyway, so I'd eat them.
I think I could down the beet juice. Listen, if I drank liver powder, then I can handle beet juice, right?
And I ate dehydrated fish powder.
Fish powder and brewer's yeast and all that. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Just down it, and have a chaser.
Exactly.
That's all.
All right, thank you for watching Rick's Corner. We're going to have Jerry back again on other subjects, but I'm not going to go into too deep now because... Hope you enjoyed the video brought to you by Old School Labs. Use my discount code DRASIN12 on the link below at oldschoollabs.com. Hey everyone, now you can have the Gold's Gym logo drawn by me, the artist Rick Drasin. Personalized and made out to you and signed by me to frame and put on your gym wall or wherever you see fit to do so. It's a piece of bodybuilding history. It will never be duplicated again. It's the largest selling icon t-shirt logo in the world. And I'm the guy that drew it, and I will draw it for you. Just go to my website, rickdrasin.com, and order there. You can pay through PayPal, and it'll be sent out right away. And be sure to watch Rick's Corner for all the videos on bodybuilding, nutrition, fitness, pro wrestling, and anything that suits your interest as far as getting physically fit and being the best you can be from the golden era of bodybuilding.
He's the equalizer, baby. See you next time.